It is good to have my sword at my side again. I call her Asala, the soul, my soul. She is forged from rare blue steel and has served me faithfully for many years. Yes, you understand what it is like to have a weapon that is part of you. Few others do. You are a true warrior and worthy of respect.
Ask away. Of course. Never what? Had a good pair of shoes? Oh, so that's what we're talking about. Well, if you really want to know, you tell me first. And apparently you have no shame as well. Well, all right, I'll play along. I, myself, never had the pleasure. Not that I haven't thought about it, of course. But, you know. Well, living in the Chantry is it's not exactly a life for rambunctious boys. They raised me to be a gentleman. That's not so bad, is it? I've no urge to rush into anything. We may not even survive what is to come, after all. Enough. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's go.
What is your wish, Kadan? I am hardly surprised. To put it lightly, no one has a place here. Your farmers wish to be merchants. The merchants dream of being nobles, and the nobles become warriors. No one is content to be who they are. What does that accomplish? The farmer who buys a shop is never a merchant. He is always a farmer turned merchant. He carries his old life with him as a turtle carries its shell. Meant by whom? And if that were indeed his purpose, why did that mysterious source of meaning not make him so to begin with? Destiny? Destiny is superstitious nonsense. Life is not a journey that ends with you arriving or not arriving at the proper destination. Life is what you do. Life is the duties you fulfill. You can learn to find it in doing your duty, in serving your people. There is no need to search for it. Shall we move on? Perhaps. It's strange to be in a crowd and hear a language that is not your own. To see faces that are and aren't like yours. I miss the smells of Saharon. Tea and incense and the sea. Ferelden smells of wet dogs. Skunks don't mind the smell of other skunks either. Shall we move on? There is interesting food here. You have a thing. It doesn't have a word in the Kunari tongue. Little baked things like bread, but sweet and crumbly. Yes, we have no such things in our lands. This should be remedied. Shall we move on? As you wish.
Does it curious thing. I do not know how else to describe it. No, nothing is wrong. It is a little embarrassing to admit, in fact. I am reminded of our first meeting in the wilds. I had been in animal form for some time, watching your progress. I knew immediately that you were far more formidable than the other men you traveled with. I found you intriguing. Yet I resented it when Flemeth assigned me to travel with you. I assumed that, at best, you would drive me from your company as soon as we left the wilds. I am aware that I have little talent for forming friendships, to put it lightly. It is something I know nothing of, nor ever thought I needed. Yet when I discovered Flemeth's plans, you did not abandon me. Whatever your reasons, you fought what must have been a terrible battle without hope of real reward. Even so, you went. No one has ever... 'Twas unexpected. That is all. The extent of my usefulness does not explain the interest and kindness you have shown since the wilds. You could as easily have ignored me entirely, yet you did not. You will need to forgive me for speaking so awkwardly, but do you suppose that we have become friends, you and I? I have nothing to compare it to. Indeed. Remarkable. I have been with men physically, those who lusted after me and even professed love, but friendship with a man? I did not know it was even possible. Tell me, could there ever be anything more between you and I? Have you ever considered it? Yes, of course. I simply had to ask. Still, 'tis good to think that we are friends. Of all the things I could have imagined when Flemeth told me to go with you, this would be the very last. I want you to know that while I may not always prove worthy of your friendship, I will always value it. But enough of such idle talk. There are more useful things to be done, surely.
I've watched a lot of humans in my time. It should be aware that I've decided that it is not much like any of them. Oh, it's not just that. Well, I'm sure that's part of it, but it's not only that. Surely it must come from some superior lineage, yes? Some breed of flesh creature that has decided to elevate its genetic stock above its natural shortcomings? Nonsense. It can imagine my surprise discovering such a thing was possible from a creature so... soft. But there it is. I would appreciate if it didn't spread around that I said anything. Humans might start to get the wrong idea. They might start thinking their race is not completely hopeless. It is quite welcome. Now, let us crush something into a fine paste before it starts to think I've gone all soft. Perish the thought.
Have you heard much about the Grey Wardens of old? It was said that watching the Wardens ride in on their white griffins was enough to rouse a weary heart and put the dance back in the step of an old man. The Grey Wardens were powerful, feared and respected, but they also inspired the common people. I remember a tale that was told to me many years ago. The Blight had ravaged the land for months, and the armies of the great kings had amassed for one last stand. As the sun burst through the clouds that boiled and churned in the dark sky above, it illuminated a vast, seething horde of darkspawn, with the archdemon at its head. And it was then, when courage seemed to fail,
and all lost to death and despair, that the Grey Wardens came. They arrived with the beating of wings like mighty war drums and stood before the armies of men. The Grey Wardens, grim and fearless, marched forth, ever between the men and the encroaching darkspawn. They formed a shield of their own bodies and held that line until the archdemon was dead and the last darkspawn lay trampled in the dirt. And then, demanding neither reward nor recognition for their sacrifice, the Grey Wardens departed. When the clouds finally rolled back and the sun shone full upon the blighted ground, the great kings knew that they had lost no men, and none of their blood had been spilled. This is a tale about no battle the Grey Wardens have fought, and yet about them all. They have always defended us from the Darkspawn, taking losses so we do not have to. People may have forgotten over the centuries, but nothing has changed. This knowledge has been blessing and burden to Grey Wardens past, and now it shall be your blessing and your burden.